Coming up, we learn about how a narcissist learns how to go ahead and cut into your love language and makes you fall in love with him or her. We talk about right now on this edition of Depraved and Debaucherous. Thanks for listening in. So a story we're getting right now about how selfish partners may manipulate a love language to camouflage a lack of empathy. Look, I know for myself that I went through issues that I could have very well been one of those narcissistic types. If given the opportunity to be in a long-term relationship, especially in my 20s, I know that was something that I could have definitely done to myself, and I'm admitting it. I'm not afraid to say that it wouldn't happen. So when I look at these stories like this, it is about trying to give this false sense of a fantasy type of love, a fairy tale. It's really what a narcissist will try to go and do. And that's what I felt like I was trying to do, was create this idea that I always wanted to be the rescuer. And I think a lot of guys who are narcissists probably have that kind of rescuer type type that they want to have, that they want to find in the girl, or a girl they can fix, a girl they can build up, make her feel better about herself, and rescue her and make her feel indebted to you forever. That might happen in movies, but it doesn't really happen at all in real life. But yet we have guys like myself that would try to do that, and that's exactly how it was. So a person who recognizes a partner's preferred love language may be also able to enhance the relationship or manipulate it. So when you understand what it is to get inside a young man or young woman's heart, to get them to start falling and having feelings for you and falling deep and hard for you, when you find that out, then you're unlocking the code to be able to go ahead and get whatever you want from that person. That's what the problem is. That I know for me, it was the fact that I was looking to try to bring in a girl because I hoped that because of my good works, because of my good deeds, and because of the effort I put in, that I would be rewarded for it. And I would be handsomely rewarded for it, which I don't know why I thought like that, but I did. So there are acts of service, words of affirmation, giving and receiving gifts, physical touch, and spending quality time. Those are 5 types of endearment identified by Gary Chapman in his book, The 5 Love Languages. So often a person prefers one mode of affection over other, and a narcissistic partner can misuse this theory because he or she lacks essential relational capacities. So the love languages are like a beautiful ironwork on a bridge connecting two people. To be seen and admired, the bridge must be structurally sound to support the connection, as well as the decorative rails. So what they're trying to say here is, because of what you know on how to go and get someone to fall closer to you, that it has to be transparent, and it has to be both people are feeling the same way, feeling similar feelings for each other. But if you're just doing it one way, then you're doing it for the false reasons. You're using the love language to get them to fall for you for what you do for them, and not because of who you are. I finally learned that lesson. It took a long time for me to get there, though. That I will say. So there are nuts and bolts of relationship, empathy, and accountability. And a person who possesses these capacities can sustain closeness in a relationship. An empathic partner cares about a person's feelings and usually listens in order to understand. Now, that's part of the thing I've learned myself, to learn how to be very empathic. But the other part is the other person on the other side of the equation has to also be empathic. So what they're saying for nuts and bolts of a relationship, both people need to be empathic towards one another and accountable to one another. That's the point. A partner who continuously fails to acknowledge a person's emotional experience in the relationship may lack empathy. And then he talked about accountability, where someone takes responsibility for a mistake in the relationship without justifications and rationalizations. Fully owning an insensitive moan or feeling bad for slighting. You communicate a desire to avoid the error in the future, and the ability to avoid responsibility, take responsibility rather, for yourself preserves the best in a relationship. It goes both ways. It's easier said than done. Then if you use love languages to exploit someone, so say he or she frequently operates selfishly and manipulates a partner. Instead of using a love language to enhance the relationship, they might use a love language for exploitation. Right. Playing on your heartstrings. We've heard that cliche before. Well, that's exactly what this is. For example, Shelley forgets to attend Tim's award ceremony. She also makes several large purchases without consulting Tim. And when Tim attempts to talk to Shelley, she escalates and tells him he deserves it because he got too drunk at their wedding 5 years ago. That evening, Shelley wants to be intimate, but Tim is upset. He declines her advances. And Shelley reminds him that physical touch is her love language. And Tim feels compelled to agree because he wants to be a loving partner. So it's like when things are not going either person's way, and then you still need to play the love language, you still have to do the things that that person expects of you. Wow. Which is where it's manipulation. You're being manipulated because you know things are not going well, and then you have to go ahead and do the things that that partner already expects of you regularly. It can be a lot of things, right? So these are the things they talk about here, and I think it's really important. Because for me, I know that I tried to learn the things, and this is where some people try to learn about. You show empathy, but then it's also being used for ulterior motives. And trying to show someone love, especially when you give an overabundance of love at the beginning and you show that level of love. That's the part they also don't make a mention of in this article, but it is true. If you are dealing with a narcissist and they are playing with your love language, then what they're also going to do is they're going to give, like what they said at the start of the article. They talk about the 5 types of endearment, and then you're getting an overdrive of that, maximum overkill of that, and then you're overwhelmed and inundated with this level of affection. Acts of service, words of affirmation, giving or receiving gifts, physical touch, and spending quality time. That's all what starts a relationship. And then you don't notice the red flags because the goodness of all that right there comes in. But then you don't realize once it starts going away, once that level of endearment and the love language starts to subside, and then that manipulation comes in, that's when you start getting a little bit afraid. But then a lot of people in relationships do the same thing. They decide, you know what? It's got to be something that I'm doing wrong. I need to do something more. I need to go ahead and give more of myself, be more empathic, be more accountable, right? Because then what's happening is you're counteracting the equation. The nuts and bolts of a relationship, the one that's trying to be doing the healthy part of the relationship, the woman in some cases, in this case for a narcissistic man, the woman is trying to be more empathic and more accountable to the man's needs. Even though there's no sense of satisfying or satiating that appetite of narcissism or manipulation for that matter. Because some of these guys that are narcissistic, they don't want you to just be empathic and accountable. They want you to be subservient. They want you to be enslaving to them. They want you to be under their control, under their thumb, wrapped around their finger, doing whatever they say and want. And then they can continue to escalate whatever the demands are, their control over you, their power, their domination over you, more and more every time. I'm telling you this is the truth. Because I've seen it. I almost let myself get there. And I want to avoid that more than ever. Because I want all of you young people to not have to worry about that kind of thing here. If somebody out there, man or woman, that gets this message and understands, and they might see the red flags and it might avoid them from any abuse or any harm or any kind of control or manipulation in the future, I hope it gets to somebody. And if it's not you and you know somebody that really needs to hear this, please pass this along, share it with them. I hope you do. But in the meantime, listen, it's not like we can't have our ways of relationships and what we do, and we're not perfect. We're all a little depraved and debaucherous.